Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner, and I was joined recently at MCM Comic Con London by Dan Slott, the mighty Dan Slott, Marvel's finest, the author of Superior Spider-Man, the author of the Fantastic Four, the author of Spider-Verse. Dan's next project is working with Titan Comics. Dan is a massive Doctor Who fan, and he has written the 2022 Doctor Who special featuring the 10th Doctor and Martha, and also the 9th Doctor and Rose. And we had a long chat about it and many other things at this MCM Comic Con London panel. And here it is. Enjoy. Welcome to MCM London Comic Con, May 2022. I'm Andrew Sumner. I'm the Executive Vice President of Titan Comics. I'm the host of Forbidden Planet TV. And I'm also the host of this panel, Safe Travels, Martha Jones, all about Titan Comics Doctor Who 2022 special, created by none other than superstar comics author, writer, my pal, Dan Slott, the creator of the Superior Spider-Man, the creator of the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse and Beyond the Spider-Verse are coming to cinemas near you next year in 2023 and the year after in 2024. The man himself, one of Marvel's top-selling authors for more time than I care to remember, Mr. Dan Slott. How you doing, mate?
Hey, Andrew. I'm the creator of the comic book,
correct?
Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah, just in case that wasn't clear to anybody. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Of course. Which makes you the creator of the Spider-Verse in my book, mate.
It's a complicated history of the Spider-Verse. There was in the 90s a Marvel Spider-Man cartoon show, and there was an episode I believe called Spider Wars, and that episode had Spider-Man meet versions of himself from alternate timelines where his life had gone down different paths, kind of like It's a Wonderful Life. Like, here's the one where he became this and this, but it was all Peter's life branching in different timelines. And they all got to team up. And one of the writers who worked on that helped out as a writer on a video game called Shattered Dimensions. And they thought it would be cool, instead of timelines, to bring Spider-Mans from different dimensions, including characters that weren't Peter Parker, like Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man of 2099. And the company that did that hired me as the writer. They went, we have this idea, can you make it a story? So I walked into that and I went, oh my God, I love this. But one of the things I didn't like was that in the game, you could only be one character at a time. And I wanted all the Spider-Man to work together. And I also fought really hard to get Spider-Ham thrown into the game. I was like, go crazy, go nuttier. Let's see Spider-Ham walk by. And this became a thing. And the day I was shown the development of the game, I called New York and I called my editor and I went, I am loving what they're doing, but they're doing it wrong. We should do this in the comics. And we should use every Spider-Man ever. We should use Spider-Ham and Spider-Man 29 and Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Man. We should just go nuts. Comb every single possible Spider-Man, shove them all into one giant adventure. And then that became a thing. And I didn't know the origins of the game. So there are Spider fans that come after me and go, you didn't make Spider-Verse. And I'm like, I coined the name and shoved the Spider-Ham in there. And
which for me is all the important stuff, mate.
It's all, yes, absolutely.
So Dan, in addition to being easily the most famous Spider-Man writer of the last 15 years, maybe even 20 years.
I'm okay, let's not have Stan or Jerry or James
of the last 15 years.
In there.
I'm not saying of all time, of the last 15 years easily.
I'm going to have Joe Street. Have you seen how tiny I am in real life? How large Joe Straczynski is?
He's a big dude. Yeah, he is massive.
What are you setting me up here for?
Well, remember, it's me saying it. And I'm a big Straczynski fan as well. So, I wasn't trying to pit you against JMS. I wouldn't be foolhardy enough to do that, given his connections and generally threatening demeanour. That's
No.
I didn't mean that. That's okay.
He's just saying, he's a lovely human being.
Just a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, before I dig more of a kind
Is he at this convention? Is he there at MCM?
Before I dig any more of a spider-shaped hole, a grave for Dan to lie down in, let's change tack. But anyway, Dan is very famous for Spider-Man, and Superior Spider-Man, if you've never read it, is an absolute treat, and I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Dan is also a massive, and unusually for an American, but there are reasons for it, a lifelong Doctor Who fan. So before we talk about the 2022 Doctor Who Titan comic special, let's talk about your history with Doctor Who, Dan. How did you become the massive, all-pervasive Doctor Who fan that you are?
I grew up as a little kid on the West Coast of America, and we didn't have access to Doctor Who at all. But every summer, we would visit my grandma's house in Massachusetts on the East Coast. And on the East Coast of America, the public broadcasting system had been buying all the Doctor Who stuff to show in America, and they showed them late at night. And they would take, instead of like the way you guys would get it, you would get one episode a week, and in America they would shove them all together, one adventure, and show it all in one night. So you would have to, and this was before VCRs or recording devices. So if you wanted to watch this story, you buckled in. And you did not leave that TV set till Tom Baker and Lalla Ward like went away. You were like there the whole time. You were going to take that through your eyeballs and store it in your brain. But that's how I met Doctor Who. The Doctor was it was actually the very beginning of the Tom Baker run. So I had seen stuff like Robot and Genesis of the Daleks.
Great episodes, great storylines.
A whole bunch of stuff with the Doctor and Harry and Sarah. And every summer I would go back, you'd have to make an appointment viewing. Like you could come home and suddenly, like, the whole family had been out getting ice cream or something. And you come home and you're like, oh, Doctor Who's on. You turn it on and it's the end of Ark in Space. And you're like, but how did they get there? What's going on? I don't know. And there's no reruns. So there'd be gaps in my knowledge. And then when I was a teenager, we moved to London, and we moved to London right at the end of Tom Baker. So I was able to catch all the E-Space stuff. I was able to, like, my first my first like the first thing I saw was the Leisure Hive, and I came home and I'm like, oh my god, and I knew who Romana was. Because I'd seen Key to Time in America. But it was like, I got to watch the end of Romana's time. I got to watch the end of Tom Baker's time in England. So, and then I could like watch Doctor Who all the time. And when we moved, I knew this was going to be a plus. I knew that I'd be able to watch all the Doctor's adventures as they aired. And I had found Forbidden Planet. And I, on top of getting my Doctor Who weekly or monthly with gorgeous, who was the artist? Watchmen.
The Dave Gibbons issues.
Dave
of Doctor
Gibbons,
Who Weekly.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal. They're brilliant.
I was able to read the Dave Gibbons, the weekly or monthly installments in the magazine, but also I was able to get all the Target adaptations.
Wonderful.
And I just started with An Unearthly Child, and I just read through everything I needed to get up to like the first three Doctors, to get all their stories into my head. And then I was
thing, isn't it, Dan? Back then, we're used to a world now where TV exists archivally. And, you get into a show, whatever it may be. You might watch Westworld and you think, what else has Jonathan Nolan done? Oh, he's done Person of Interest. I'll watch that. And you watch 5 seasons of it back to back and it's easy. But back then, in the 70s and 80s, if you're a contemporary Doctor Who fan, not only was it were you not really able to see the pre-Tom Baker episodes very easily, But most of them didn't even exist. The tapes had been wiped, right?
Yeah, like they hadn't found them in Africa and other places yet where they hadn't wiped the tapes. But the only way and they didn't show reruns. They didn't show, like, every now and then you would get something special, like they would show the Three Doctors. They would pull that out of the archives. But for the most part, you weren't getting any kind of reruns. So that was the only way to get this. And there weren't VHS tapes even at that point. And the only way I could get the stories was by reading the novelizations, the targets, and which I did instead of schoolwork. So,
yeah. and I mean, it's just, well, very, very wise, by the way, mate, because that's one of the fundamental building blocks, no doubt, of your career.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you look, but your relationship with Doctor Who historically, and you know, post Eccleston revival in the 2000s, who is your favorite Doctor?
I'm not answering that.
Classic?
I'm not answering that. I'm not going into that hole. Don't. You're trying to get Straczynski on me. Now you're trying to you're trying to get Matt Smith mad at me or something. It's just, no. One of the ways that people got me to go to conventions, because I'd be like, I'm too busy with Spider-Man, I'm too busy with this, and then I'd be like, what guests are going to be there? Like, what Doctor Who guests you got? I'm like, I will come to do your convention if I can hang out with, like, the Doctor Who actors in the green room. And they're like, done. I'd be like, so that was like how they got me there was I'd get, like, to get a photo with them. I'd get to have a few words, and I'd be like, okay, that's what got me to your convention. So the thing that I love about everybody from the Russell T Davies relaunch of Doctor Who is that every single actor I've ever met, or anyone working on the crew, or everyone just across the board behind the scenes, they're the best ambassadors to the show. They're all lovely people, and they're great with fans, and they love what they're doing.
I agree completely. I think that's a spot on assessment. So Dan, what was the road to you being involved with the Titan Comics Doctor Who publishing program? How did that come about?
I wanted to do this forever, and whenever I would come to the UK, the lovely people at Titan and Forbidden Planet would take me out to dinners and go, we want you to do Doctor Who. And I would be like, I can't do Doctor Who. I am Marvel exclusive. I can't. They won't know. It was horrible. Every single time I'd be in the UK, dangle it like a little carrot, just dangle it. And eventually, one of my negotiations with Marvel, I was like, can I just do, like, a Doctor Who? Let me get it out of my system. Put a clause in my contract. Not for any other company, not for me to write Batman or go to Doctor Who. Let me do some just a little bit of Doctor Who. And finally that happened. So yeah, after many years, and for many years I tried with Titan in secret, and the BBC, and a number of people at Marvel really tried to get a Spider-Man Doctor Who crossover miniseries. Right. And it had so many people ready to do it. We had the stories ready, and the push comes to shove, Marvel, we're happy being Marvel. Yeah, you know, yeah. Marvel will be here, and that other thing will be there, and that will be fine. And then people at Marvel will be like, well, maybe you could create a Doctor Who-like character for Spider-Man. And I'm like, no. Yeah. It's not the same.
I mean, you said it, mate. We were so excited about all of that. And just what I still think it would be brilliant. You know, who knows what will happen in the future? You never know.
It would be wonderful if the heavens aligned and we got to do that, because I would love different characters to meet in the different universes. It's impossible for me to look at Immortus and not think that maybe he's the master.
I just think that's inspired, and for anybody who knows their Spider-Man, they'll realize what an on-point. Anybody who knows their Marvel knows what an on-point reference that is. And I mean, it's I mean, you're preaching to converted here, mate. I would love it to happen. One
of the best bits we had, and I can say, because who knows if it'll ever happen, is that you found out that Kurt Connor's serum wasn't turning him into a lizard. it was turning him into a proto-Silurian.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, mate.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
It was going to be 5 done-in-one stories of the Doctor and Spider-Man Peter being the companion, having adventures in time and space, and one of them was going to be called Kurt Connor's King of the Silurians.
Oh man, it's just too much, just too good. I mean, if you're what I am, which is a massive Spider-Man fan and a massive Doctor Who fan, this is just pressing all the buttons on the TARDIS console.
We had so many different ways that everything lined up, and brutal.
So after teasing you guys at MCM right there in the audience with what could have been, let's talk about what is. So for some time now, you've been working on the Doctor Who 2022 special with the mighty, our group editor, the mighty Jake Devine, who is, like yourself, a huge Doctor Who brain. Knows Doctor Who inside and out and is a huge fan. Great editor. What have you been cooking up for us, Dan?
We're working with 3 amazing artists. Chris Jones, who's worked on like 3rd Doctor stories and other Doctor stories with Titan. Matthew Dow Smith, who did some 9th adventures and other 10th Doctor adventures in Titan. And one of my favorite human beings on the planet, Mike Collins, who is one of the Doctor Who storyboard artists of the TV show. So with Chris and Matt, we're telling a giant story of new aliens and old aliens and classic aliens and new Who aliens, all in a big adventure with the 10th Doctor and Martha Jones. And then we have a backup story where Mike Collins and I are telling a story of the 9th Doctor and Rose. So you're going to get 2 Doctors, 2 companions, 58 pages of me finally getting to go. I've always wanted to work on Doctor Who. Blah. Here it all is. I'm like a big can of soda that has been shooken up, wanting to do Doctor Who for years. And and finally, it's one of my favorite things is Mike is a diehard Doctor Who fan, knows all the ins and outs of Doctor Who continuity, and he's been storyboarding the show since the 9th Doctor. He's been one of the storyboard artists, so he's seen every script and every story. And in our short story, we have this bit that the whole story hinges on. And he's like, no one's ever done that in Doctor Who. Like, no one's done that bit. And I'm like, I know. There's all these little hidden gems. There's all these things I've always wanted to see in Doctor Who that we're gonna get to see. I don't want to spoil too much.
No, of course. Can just a word about Mike Collins, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but one of the great things about Mike is he exists on that perfect continuum, like yourself, of a guy who's embedded into Doctor Who, has actually worked on Doctor Who, but is also heavily involved in the comic book industry. And if anybody wants to do a deep dive into Mike's past, he did a wonderful run on Peter Cannon Thunderbolt. I'm thinking probably about 20 years ago now for DC, and that is totally worth checking out. That book, I think it's great, really good.
I remember the first time I met him. He did, and God, this sets the clock. When Frank Miller was doing Daredevil, the most epic part of like the original Frank Miller Daredevil run, where they introduced Elektra and yada yada yada. Alan Moore wrote a Daredevil parody, and Mike Collins was the guy who drew it. And I remember reading that in high school. And when I first met Mike, I was like, "You did that?" And he was like, "Yes, yeah." So he's been deep into comics for ages. When I was in high school, and look at this beard. So,
that's it. I mean, it is amazing. It's amazing that you've got those 3 artists, involved in the project.
All with really good Doctor Who cred under their belt. Yeah. When people see like the way Chris Jones, he nails likenesses. So
It
you
really
look
does.
at it like, oh my God, that is David Tennant, that is Freema Agyeman, that is, everyone looks right, and they're all with this, all the expressions and the things that you're used to. That's the fun thing. It's like you write the comics in a lexicon. You write the comics where you're talking to your artist. Like if I'm working with a Marvel artist, I might ask in shorthand for like a Gil Kane punch, and they know exactly what I mean. They know that's a punch where you punch the guy so hard the head goes back and you see up the nostrils, head over heels punch. When I'm working with these guys, I get to use like Doctor Who references, like, you know, the David Tennant "I'm so sorry" face. You know, the David Tennant "for what's what you know, like I can ask for, can you give me this in this moment, you know, and then you get it on the page and you're like, there's a section from Mike where you don't, I don't have to throw any dialogue on it. You know, it's a 2-panel shot of Eccleston going, and then you just tell from his face he's saying fantastic. Yeah. You don't need, I could just have it in the vacuum of space, and the way Mike Collins has drawn it, you know exactly what's going on.
I mean, Dan, something I love about this special, and of course, I'm in the business of loving every incarnation of Doctor Who, and I'm one of the few people who's probably either on screen now or sat in the audience watching this who actually watched the first episode of Doctor Who in real time, right? And I love it all. But what's glorious about this special is you happen to have harnessed, if I was me, the fan talking, my favourite Doctor, which is Eccleston, because he is a fellow Northerner, and my favourite companion, who is Martha, who I've just absolutely always loved. I think Freema's such an amazing actor. I think she's brilliant. So to have both of them in this special together in different ways, I just think is glorious.
The plan, the hopeful plan is that we'll do a special in 2023 and we'll do a third special in 2024. And I think it's pretty easy to see where we're going, where the first one has a short with 9 and a lead with 10. You go, okay, yeah, I'm just, but at the same time, I've written the first one as if one day you guys at Titan will wake up and go, what have we done? No. So this is very much everything in the kitchen sink. Yeah. In this episode, there is the main story is actually 3 stories. The main story with the Doctor and Martha is actually, there's an overstory, and Martha, for reasons we're not going to get into, is telling stories about the Doctor. Very much how she was in like the finale of season 3. People are like, didn't she already do that? So, you get these 3 stories of the Doctor, and having a chance to, like, when anyone, like, one of the things I'm very good at is I have indoctrinated all these like Americans into watching Doctor Who. Like, if you follow my Twitter feed, or if you know me in real life, if you're a Marvel staffer, I have like, so like, you know, slowly weaned you into this world till you can't get out. I've lured the one, my usual, you know, people go like, what Doctor Who episode do you give to a friend to get them sucked in? And a lot of people go for Blink because it's just one of the best of the modern.
Spectacular episode, really good.
But there's barely any Doctor in it. You know, it's almost a Doctor-free episode. It's very much a bottle episode. So my entry level, my first, you know, the first one's free. One that I give people is, I always go for Girl in the Fireplace.
Oh yeah, very interesting. That's a great choice. It's
a good done in one, interesting monsters. It hits great companions, time travel, space travel. It gives you the whole breadth of everything that Doctor Who's in one episode. So very much like this, I've got my 3 stories within a story. So one of them is on an alien planet, and one of them is in a different period of Earth history, and one of them is a secret that I'm not going to tell you. But between all three of those, it's like, I'm going to show you everything I love about Doctor Who, and you're going to get it in these, 58 pages. You're going to see, like, the main villains are new villains. So it's like, how can you write a Doctor Who story and not add to the lexicon? How can you write and not go, I want to make monsters. I want to create a new thing. But in each story, we're going to see, in one, we see new Who villains. In the second one, there is some classic Doctor Who villains in there. Like, oh man, I was talking to, because we got Adam Hughes to do the cover.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful cover, by the way.
He's a Whovian, and this is the first time Adam Hughes has gotten to draw professionally Doctor Who. And I was walking him through the special, and when I hit the second story, and I told him who the monsters were, who the baddies were, he was like, you could see it. He wanted to draw it. It was like a sweet spot. It's so many people's favorite. That isn't, the obvious. It isn't the Daleks or the Cybermen or the guys that show up over and over again. Yeah. There's this golden episode for some fans, and I'm one of them. And he was like, those are my favorite episodes. I'm like, that's the baddies. And he was, oh. And the third one's going to have so many new Who villains in them that you'll be like, what? And the backup with Mike Collins, you were asking who's your favorite Doctor, and it's really hard to tell, because the stuff I saw of Tom Baker was spotty, because I couldn't control when I saw it all, and then I came in at the very end. But so many people are like, oh, he's my favorite Doctor, because it's Tom Baker, for God's sake. But the Peter Davison era is special to me, because that's Doctor Who, like, okay, I get to start with I get to be there from the second he pops up from that regeneration, and he's the first Doctor I followed solidly from beginning to end. So he always holds a special place in my heart, and I am using monsters from his era in the backup with Mike, and Mike draws them spot on. Where you can see the zippers on the suits. And God bless him, when the pages came in, I was like, you were watching the episodes. That's the horrible way their spaceship looked, using like 1980s materials, from like, it's so clearly they bought it at like a flat pack or something, and they just threw this thing together, and they'll make one hallway, and then you'll just keep running down the same hallway. But it's like he totally knew what the right background was supposed to look like, in the shoddiest way possible. That just, my heart grew 3 sizes, just like it's all. But then later you see it repurposed when he does cooler backgrounds, but using the same materials. Like he did the work. They're holding the right kind of ray guns from the episode they're in. I'm like, I'm so happy.
It all sounds so exciting, mate. And I should say, for everybody watching this, if you want to check out more of what we're doing with regard to Dan's Doctor Who 2022 special, you can check us out on Twitter, where we're at Comics Titan. You can check us out at Titan Comics on Instagram. You can check out Titan-Comics, which is our webpage. You can pre-order the book from forbiddenplanet.com. And if you go on to Forbidden Planet TV on YouTube, you'll be able to see a bunch of other conversations between myself and Dan, talking about the genesis of this and talking about some of his other work. But to leap back into Who, I was thinking about what perhaps my recommendatory episode for New Who would be for jumping on board, because I think you both the ones you name checked are really good jumping on episodes. And even though it's a bit of a deep mythology dive, I think one of the most spectacularly planned and executed episodes of the New Who era was the Eccleston episode Dalek by.
I thought you were going to go for Rose. Just go straight to the beginning.
Yeah, because I mean, and that's certainly a strong choice. But I think Dalek's a great episode.
Oh, it's wonderful,
endlessly rewatchable.
With Henry Van Staten.
Yeah, right on.
No, I'm with you. No, Dalek is excellent. It's like I have different ones because you get people. It's the same thing in comics. Someone will go, I want to start reading Spider-Man. Where should I start? And if you go, well, if you go to Amazing 15,
yeah, right on.
You're like, I'm not going to read 60 years of comics. Where do I start? Where do I start is always a scary question. And the longer a property lives on, the more like a new fan looks at the entirety of what they expect me to catch up on, and it gets scarier and off-putting. And one of the great things that Doctor Who does is every time the show regenerates, they always provide excellent jumping on points. Like if you just want to start here, if you just want to start with Jodie, you can start here. If you just want to start with Matthew Smith, you can start here. And the show brings you up to speed as the Doctor informs the new companion. Here's how everything works. That the show does an excellent job of, if you want to join in, of holding your hand if you're a new viewer and bringing you on, especially at the start of any Doctor's run or any companion. When ever a new companion joins, it's always a chance for the show to reinvent itself for new viewers.
Yeah, no, I think that is very well said, mate. Very well indeed. I know we talked earlier about not being specific about favourite Doctors and what have you, which I think is a very wise strategy. And I remember talking to...
I love them all.
yeah, right on. That's exactly it. Somebody who'd be familiar to some people in the audience, Jonathan Ross, talking to him about his favourite comic books and music, and he said he doesn't really like naming his favourites because then people just come up to him in the street and start remonstrating and going, you're wrong for these reasons, and they're just conversations I'd rather not have. But I was thinking in terms of the Doctors of your lifetime, the guys you've watched, throughout the years. What would be could you pick out, say, a favourite episode or a couple of storylines per Doctor that you really like?
Oh, no, I love them all, and I've got my favorites for each one. Like with the current run, Jodie, I love the episode Rosa.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that.
That's a beautiful episode where they go back and they meet Rosa Parks. With Capaldi, my favorite has to be Heaven Sent, where he's trapped in the puzzle box alone. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so Rachel Talalay directing that, and Stephen Moffat's script, and it's a beautiful little. It's gorgeous. With Matt Smith, oh my God, there's so many I love. Oh, it's tricky. The scariest thing is the 11th Hour is just so good. His first out of the box is so good, but they're all good. I love the Matt Smith era with David Tennant, Girl in the Fireplace. With Matt Smith, it's Day of the Doctor.
Oh yeah,
even though he and both David Tennant are in that, that is just one of my favorite Doctor Who episodes of all time. I
agree completely. Yeah.
The Doctor's wife. When the TARDIS becomes alive.
Suran Jones, brilliant. Really good.
She's from Casualty.
She's a really front rank British TV star. Suran starred in a lot of very famous
Gentleman Jack and
TV shows. Yeah, she's really, really good.
She's so good. But yeah, the Doctor's wife. I'm in tears every time at the end. That is just one of the best Doctor Who episodes of all. It's just like you were saying with Eccleston, my favorite is The Empty Child.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Are you my mommy?
Genuinely scary as well, isn't it? The Empty Child. That's the thing about it. It's creepy.
There's so much good. When I had the first of the modern day Doctors I got to meet, doing cons. I got to get my picture with Matt Smith. and it held up the cube because they kept taking the picture over and over again. And they're like, "Sir, your eyes are closed. You keep closing your eyes." And the problem wasn't I wasn't closing my eyes. I was smiling so hard. I was so happy. It was shoving my cheeks up into my eyes. It was ruining every picture. I was just like, I'm hanging out. Look at the doctor right here. The doctor, Matt Smith. You know, they did all these wonderful premieres in America where they would have all
I remember those.
They would have Matt Smith and they would have Karen Gillan and Arthur Darvill, and they would have everybody show up like a movie premiere, and then you'd all go in, and it's amazing. And the first year they did that, I knew the theater was like 20 blocks from my house. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go there. I'll go there at midnight. So I'll be like, no. I went at like it was going to be at 7 at night or something. So I'll go at 7 in the morning. I'll go 12 hours ahead. And I get there, and it's like line around the block. Everyone with people setting up tents, and like American fans really wanted to see this. Yeah. And me and my friend, we camped out there for 12 hours, and we barely got in. We scooted in. And then the next year I was like, but I made so many friends in the line, and we stayed like Facebook friends, all the Whovians that we all met in the line that day. And then one point I took a break, I had my friend hold my spot, went up to the front. I asked people in the front, when did you get here? And they were like, oh, we got here at like midnight. I'm like, okay, midnight. So the next year they did the same thing. And I was there midnight, and I was still like 100 people in. I wasn't at the very end.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm planted my flag. I'm going to be here overnight. And the guy my friend who was going to trade off with me so he could do bathroom breaks and get Starbucks and whatever throughout the day. He calls me at 3 a.m. and he's like, my wife might be able to get us press passes. I'm staying in bed. You can hang out there. So I hung out there for like 6 hours on my own. And then he called me at 6 a.m. back and went, we can get in. We can get in. You can leave. You can leave the line. But I was prepared. I was ready.
I mean, that is a supreme level of Doctor Who fan, of Whovian dedication. That's supremely impressive, mate. Now, Dan, I'm thinking.
I can tell you my most impressive Doctor Who feat.
Let's have it. Let's have it for sure.
Okay,
bring it
on. So, I pulled favors from like you guys and other guys to get a set visit and get to run around on the TARDIS and push all the buttons, and it's just great. I did it with some friends, and Derek Ritchie, who is one of the producers, lovely, was showing us around, and we're walking like in the back of the set, and there are 2 TARDISes. There is the interior TARDIS, which is a giant, beautiful set, and then there's the hero TARDIS, which is the actual thing you see that the actors walk in and out. And there's the hero TARDIS. It's right over there. And it was red velvet roped off. Like you were not allowed to see or go near the hero TARDIS. And I'm looking at Derek Ritchie like, we can't see the hero TARDIS? And he's like, if you promise not to tell anyone, you can see the hero TARDIS. I'm like, promise not to tell anyone? And then I walk over and I peek around, and there was the flower mural of Clara painted all down the front of the TARDIS. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh. And then I come back and Derek goes, what do you think it means? And I'm like, what do I think it means? I think Clara's going to die, and Riggsy from the episode Flatline is going to paint a mural for her. And he looks at me like, I'm a comic book writer. I can put the pieces in the. I totally nailed it in like a second. I was like, I know it. And he's like, you can't tell. I won't tell anyone. And I'm sitting there like for like a year. I'm like, I can't tell anyone. And the guys from the Inside Doctor Who show from the BBC, Crystal D and we were on we were online and we were in direct messages, and we're kind of like, did you see the hero TARDIS? I saw the hero TARDIS. Are you not allowed to talk about the hero TARDIS? I'm not allowed to talk about the hero TARDIS. So you know there's something on the hero TARDIS. I know there's something on the hero TARDIS. They're like, can we talk about it? Yeah, we're both under NDA. Yeah. And so I finally had like one person I could be like, oh my God, it's going to be Rigsy, isn't it? It's going to be Rigsy with a mural. And oh my God, Clara's going to die.
That's absolutely wonderful, mate. So for those of you watching this out there at MCM,
kept it inside for a year with only one person to confide with.
I mean, you know, obviously you're a seasoned veteran of the crucifying Marvel NDAs, so that's a process that you understand, right, mate?
Oh my God, the secrets I sit on. Like, I just finally told people about one, because there's also how you know the secret. So a lot of times, even when the secret is revealed, you know, oh yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is going to snap his fingers and he's going to die. You know, yeah. Oh no. If someone ever told you a secret down the line, they might not have been able to. You cannot reveal the secret even after the secret has been revealed, because then people can backwards work out, you know, who in authority told you what and when and what Marvel Studios person you were in. That you got to keep it all. You take every secret and you put it into the vault, and then it never comes out even after it's been revealed. You must never let anyone know anything. Yeah. I'm someone who hates spoilers, so I totally get that. But this one, I felt it was fine to tell, which was, now that the She-Hulk trailer was out, because I figure, who's Kevin Feige going to get in trouble with? Kevin Feige?
Yeah, so, the overlord of the MCU, the overlord of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm at the Far From Home premiere, the Spider-Man, the one with Mysterio and Spider-Man going everywhere. And at the after party thing, I walk over and I introduce myself to Kevin Feige, and I go, "Hi, I'm Dan Slott. I'm Marvel's current writer on Marvel's writer on Fantastic Four." And he goes, "No, you're not." This is like Kevin Feige. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "No, you're our Spider-Man guy. You have been for years." I'm like, "Oh." All right. And then he pulls me aside and goes, "We should talk about She-Hulk." And then he had to go off and do something, and I was like, What just happened? Kevin Feige just told me there's a She-Hulk project. Like, is it a movie? Is it a TV show? And my mind is reeling, because now I'm like, wait, how does that work with Hulk rights? Can you do a She-Hulk movie without Hulk rights? And do I now know this? And should I not know this? And then I had to like walk around till that, like, effectively almost the trailer dropped.
Yeah.
Without telling anybody I've known. I you know, because Kevin Feige told me, like, you have to keep it in the vault, or little red laser lights show up.
I mean, Dan, you must be so excited for that show.
I am beyond excited. It's Jessica Gao is the head writer. She wrote the Emmy-winning episode of Rick and Morty, Pickle Rick. She's hysterical. Oh
yeah, wonderful.
She's amazing, and she has wanted to do a MCU She-Hulk project for so long. She went after this, and she got it. The writers they're using on that show, Dana Schwartz, Zeb Wells, Cody Ziegler. These are great, talented people. I'm very excited. They looked at the entirety of She-Hulk, and they have. They've cherry-picked all their favorite bits. So there's going to be some John Byrne fourth wall breaking.
Great.
There's the Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg, Holloway law firm from my run. You know, there's going to be elements of my stuff, of Charles Soule's stuff. They're going to use every piece of the Buffalo. It's really exciting. I'm super excited for this. I'm super excited for this, and I'm super excited for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. It's fun to see, you know, how these super mega talented individuals in Hollywood take this stuff and re-envision it and make it genius and put it out there. It's very exciting to watch the whole thing happen.
I couldn't agree more. As a lifelong Marvel fan, as I'm a lifelong Doctor Who fan, it's just a glorious time to be reaping that whirlwind of all the things you love being adapted really well into television and into film. It is amazing to watch.
I was telling a friend, like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. I'm so excited for Thor 4. And they're like, it's on 4? I'm like, yeah, Thor 4. It's coming out right after the Ms. Marvel show, the Doctor Strange 2, and the Moon Knight show, but before the She-Hulk show. You know,
exactly.
We live in the golden era. It's something like 30 movies now in the MCU, and the man,
10-year-old me, his head is literally exploding every day looking at the new stuff that crops up. I mean, She-Hulk: Attorney at Law, the fact that that's the title of the show, that is amazing.
Everything that's coming up, I'm super excited for. I'm super excited to see the Jason Aaron concept show up in Love and Thunder with Gore and Jane Foster Thor. There's so much cool stuff on the way. And we just had Spider-Man No Way Home,
which was fantastic. How did you feel about that, mate? Watching that because now we can openly talk about the reveals with Toby and with Andrew Garfield. How did that play to you as a man who's been supremely invested in Spider-Man for all this time?
John Watts is so good, and that team is so good that they told story to the Tom Holland, the MCU Spider-Man, and they moved his story forward. And somehow they pulled off the magic trick of giving, because let's be honest, Spider-Man 3 with the black suit and the Harry and the Venom and the Sandman and it kind of collapsed under its own weight.
Sadly.
Yeah. And the Amazing Spider-Man 2 ended on a downbeat because they thought they were going to be a trilogy.
Right on. Yeah. But so there's no redemptive moment. It was all down.
There's no closure, and Gwen's dead. You're like, what a terrible place to leave that franchise.
Yeah.
And here you have John Watts and his team moving the MCU Spider-Man story forward to the next chapter, and along the way, giving 2 other film franchises better closure. Just on the way. Not a dry eye in the house when Andrew Garfield saves Zendaya. Everyone like, oh my God. And when she looks up at him and he goes, are you okay? You're like, oh, all the feelings.
It's a heart exploding moment, right, mate?
Yeah. Oh my God. It gave Jamie Foxx a better time as Electro.
And a better view and a better look as Electro.
And the whole Electro.
Yeah, right on. The Ditko of it all. It was just wonderful. Hey, I mean, we could have a whole separate panel talking about this now.
On just No Way Home. It is, in my heart of hearts, I still love Spider-Man 2 as like one of the greatest live action superhero movies of all time. And if you hold a gun to my head, I don't know, when Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Spider-Man 2, I have a hard time going, it's so hard to what day you feel, what thing is your favorite. But there's always going to be this special place in my heart for Spider-Man No Way Home for doing all that it did in that space.
I agree. It was supremely emotionally satisfying and for me, a masterpiece. And we're almost out of time. So to flip back from your glorious Marvel history to your now soon to be glorious Doctor Who history, I hope everybody here joining us for this panel has seen that not only is Dan Slott the Spider-Man writer of the last 15 years, according to me certainly and many other people, but he is a legit 100% deep dive, deep level Doctor Who fan.
Whovian.
A Whovian of every stripe, and the 2022 Doctor Who Titan Comic Special available for pre-order from forbiddenplanet.com is worth every penny you will spend on it. Is 58 pages of brilliance, and I think everybody out there will really enjoy what you and the guys have done. It's great stuff, and it is great to have you on the book, Dan. It really is.
I can't wait.
And everybody, this has been Safe Travels Martha Jones, the Doctor Who 2022 comic special panel, starring the one and only Dan Slott, from us here at Titan Comics. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of the show. We will see you soon, and we'll see you in the funny papers. Take care.
Does anyone have any questions? Any questions? I'm a recording.
Just send them to us on Twitter, and we'll try and answer them. Take care, everyone. Yes. Cheers, Dan. Thank you, brother.
Bye.
We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.